a season, and when we come across certain difficulties, certain discouragements, and when we feel that moment is, totally you are kind of, under arrest in that season, you obviously look for a better life, a better season. I call this as enough is an enough moment. Enough is enough moment. Can you say with me, enough is enough moment? Enough is enough is generally conveys the idea of reaching a limit at some point of time in our lives. And we say further tolerance, further patience is no longer possible. I have done everything by, my best. Have you ever said that I have done everything by my best? Have you ever said that? I have tried everything. Nothing is working. I tried my best. Someone who has endured so much in his life or her life reaches a point in her life or his life. No further waiting is possible. No further delay is possible. I've been waiting for such a long time. Often during a period of struggle, during a period of discontent, it's common to look forward for a transition. After fighting the battle of deadly, incurable disease, people really long for some transition, saying that enough is enough. I am done with this. Are you talking about another chemo? I don't think I can handle it anymore. Are you talking about going through another surgery? I don't think I can handle it anymore. Enough is enough. After multiple failures and defeats, people say, enough is enough. I'm looking forward to do something different. I don't think I can come up in this life in this way. I want to do something different. Have you come across throwing the towel moment? Throwing the towel moment of life? When we stop trying everything because of the discouragement, because of the frustration, because of the multiple defeat, and sensing kind of, an overwhelmed feeling inside of us. And we come and say that, God, enough is enough. Can I look forward for a better season in my life? So this morning, I would like to title my sermon as Enough is Enough. Can you say that with me? Enough is enough out loud. Enough is enough. Enough is enough are the moments of life believers make a strong decision to move past the struggles they have been encountering, the frustrations and the limitations, and they declare their faith and put that faith in action. As children of God, you and I are called to make strong decisions. Decisions based on faith. Today you are sitting in the same way you have been sitting for the last couple of years because you are not making strong decisions. You are not a man of faith. You are not a woman of faith. If you are a man of faith, woman of faith, you would make strong decisions. Because life doesn't take you where you want to go. You need to go where you want to be in your life. Often we come across this scenario in our lives. These moments that I'm talking about, enough is enough moments, are the crossroads moments. Can you say crossroad? These moments that we are talking about, enough is enough moments, are the turning points in your life. These moments are the break points in your life. These moments are the deliberate attempts that you make by faith to do something different than what you have been doing. They are kind of do or die situation. This morning, the message is titled as Enough is Enough. Can you say that once again with me? Enough is enough. Those are the life-changing moments, I have come across many testimonies in the life of people. And most often we hear the testimony, when we hear the testimony, they're not just happened just out of a smooth transition. They have taken place just all of a sudden. All of a sudden, God may be putting the desire in your heart, and you just incubate that desire inside of you, and at some point of time you realize it is a time to transition into another season, and you just bring all the faith that you have, and you put that faith in action, and you move forward. Do you think anybody will understand what you're trying to do? Do you think anybody will be able to back you up? I don't think anybody will be able to back you up, because they don't have the vision. Who's having the vision? You have the vision. I have the vision. We have the vision. People cannot understand what we are trying to do. So these are the moments one must take a stand. One must take a stand. This morning the sermon is for whom I don't know, but this is what God wants me to share with you. This morning God is speaking to you. I believe there are moments that you must stand. This is a clear time that you must draw a line. One must stand firm and a positive move at this moment. In the Bible, the one who experienced several seasons in his life and went through enough moments during the transition from one season to the another season. Any guess whom I'm talking about? Joseph? Eliezer? Elijah? Elisha? Anybody else? David? Anybody else? Thank God you didn't answer my question correctly. Moses. Can you say Moses? Okay, I'll tell you why it is, okay? If you've just forgotten the story of Moses this morning, I'm here to teach you about Moses, okay? How good you feel that you're not teaching about Moses, telling the story of Moses? Hello, Moses. Moses experienced several seasons in his life. I'm right. All of you, whatever you said is right. David, Elijah, Joseph, they all had their own season. But this morning, for some reason, I have chosen to talk about Moses. Moses experienced several key seasons in his life. There are many transitions he experienced in his life. I'm going to talk about 3 major seasons that he experienced in his life and 2 different transitions. How many? 3 major seasons and how many transitions? 2 different transitions, 2 major transitions. So let's talk about Moses' 3 different seasons. Can you get that on the screen, please? Number 1, the season, read with me. Number 1, out loud. The season of preparation in Egypt. How many years? 40 years. Number 2, the season of training in Midian. How many years? 40 years. Number 3, the season of leadership in the wilderness, 40 years. Let's talk about number 1, the season of preparation in Egypt for 40 years. Moses spent the first 40 years of his life in Egypt. And where he was raised in the Pharaoh's palace by Pharaoh's daughter. Pharaoh's household has given him royal education, and he was provided with a royal lifestyle of living in the palace. He was privileged with everything. He was an ordinary Hebrew boy. The boys who were born along with Moses, what happened to them? They were all killed. They were all executed. Now Moses is alive. He's coming up in Pharaoh's palace. I want you to journey with me in this sermon. So this particular season prepared Moses with all the knowledge of Egyptian culture, with all the skills that he needs in terms of speaking, because he became a great orator, leadership qualities, and he developed battling skills and techniques, various things he developed during this time, even though he was a Hebrew boy, now living and being raised in Pharaoh's palace. It was a time for preparation for Moses. Moses was getting prepared in Pharaoh's palace. Moses was raised as son of Pharaoh's daughter. He was enjoying all the luxury, all the comfort. He was given all the power in Egypt. What a great life it is. Any of you remember the day when you got married by any chance? Do you remember? Yes? You remember. Do you remember your first visit on which day? First day, second day, third day? Maybe first day, next day. To your in-laws' house? Any of you remember? No? They didn't even bother to call you, okay? Just take my girl and go away, get lost, So I remember when I went to my in-laws' house, everywhere on the floor there are rose petals. I had to walk only on the rose petals. And when I went there, the house was totally decorated. And her sister came with such a beautiful bouquet and such an invitation, very welcoming, and just went there and enjoyed with all my in-laws the whole day. A couple of weeks later, I knocked the door. I was knocking at the door, nobody opened the door. I had to knock for 5 minutes and then I had to go all the way back to Sidon to see whether anybody is there or not. Luckily, Grandma was there. The rest are all gone. Where? They said that you are coming and then I asked you to wait. They will come, they'll finish their duties and they'll come back home. What did they say that? Moses. Okay, right, Moses. Moses was raised in the Pharaoh's palace as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Can you come with me to Acts chapter 7, verse 22? Reading from NIV, Acts 7:22. Read with me. Moses was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was powerful in speech and in action. Once Moses, when he went out at the age of 40, he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew. And Moses, being a Hebrew boy, raised up in the Egyptian culture. And Moses, you know what he did? He took the boy, Egyptian man, and he killed him. And he buried him on the ground. And he thought now his people would recognize him as a deliverer. Moses has come. He is going to kill one by one all the Egyptians. And so the children of Israel can get escaped from the slavery. That's what Moses thought the people will think that way, his own people. But later he realized that was not the case. And later even Pharaoh came to know, and Pharaoh was looking for Moses to kill Moses. Why? Because he killed an Egyptian. Now, after he killed an Egyptian, Moses had to flee for his life. In a fraction of a second, your life and my life can turn. Today you stand and you move around, and in a fraction of a second, you don't know even who will rise against you, and things can totally change against you. That's the world we are living in. In a fraction of a moment, a season of influence in Egyptian palace is totally gone. Can you come with me to Exodus chapter 2, verses 11 to 15? We are talking about enough is enough moments. If Exodus chapter 2, verse 11, can you read with me? Now it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown that he went out to his brethren and looked at their burdens. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. Verse 12, so he looked this way and that way. And when he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. Verse 13, and when he went out the second day, behold, 2 Hebrew men were fighting. And he said to the one who did the wrong, why are you striking your companion? Then he said, who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian, a Hebrew brother, his own blood? He's talking to Moses like that, now in that way. So Moses feared and said, surely this matter is known to everybody. Verse 15, when Pharaoh had heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well. What a tragic story it is. Everything was going well, and all of a sudden he had to leave the palace and he had to sit at the side of the well. Moses is in enough is enough moment of his life. Moses is basically getting ready for the next season. Today, if you are sitting at the side of the well, you need to realize, I need to realize it's time for another season. Can you say another season? He realized that there is no point in staying here in Egypt. There is no point at all. It's time to make the next move. Think about Moses. I want you to think about Moses. He was well educated. He had all the wisdom. He had enough knowledge in Egyptian culture. He was a powerful speaker, and he was very powerful in action. He had all the luxury. He had a great future as an Egyptian in the Egyptian kingdom. But Moses was not satisfied there. He thought enough is enough. He thought it is time to move into the next season. Have you come across such situation in your life? I just want to talk to you for a moment. You have everything in your life. You have a well-paid job. You have your friends and families around you. You have all the facilities. You have recognition. You have a great future, but you are not satisfied. You are always missing something inside of you. Am I talking to somebody this morning? You are always missing something inside of you. And you are telling that, I've been waiting for the day to come. Things around me are so overwhelming at times. This is not my season. And at times, don't you say that enough is enough. Enough is enough. I want to get out of here. I want to just move to somewhere else. Something is pushing you. Something is not allowing you to be stable. It doesn't allow you to settle down. People say at times, what is your problem? You have everything. You have all the comfort. Don't you behave? Why do you behave crazy like this? Moses felt that he messed up everything. He messed up everything. Enough is enough. It is time for me to transition into another season. Have you come across such scenario in your life? At some point of time, you sit around and you wonder, why did I mess up? Why did I mess up? It's all because of me. It's all because of me. Enough is enough. Can I go? Can I look forward to transitioning into another season? Secondly, can you come with me? The season of training in Midian. Second 40 years. 40 years went by. Time will just fly. Your life will come to an end pretty soon. My life too. Time will just fly. The second season of training in Midian. After fleeing Egypt, as the Egyptian king was about to kill him, as Moses was defending a Hebrew against an Egyptian, Bible says Moses spent the remaining 40 years in the wilderness of Midian as a shepherd. As a shepherd. You know, this was certainly a humbling season. Daniel spoke about humbling ourselves in the presence of God, where he learned patience, where he learned humility, he learned how to wait, he learned certain other skills that probably he would need to tend his sheep. Can you come with me to Acts chapter 7, verses 29 and 30? Then at this saying, Moses fled. Read with me. Moses fled and became a dweller in the land of Midian, where he had 2 sons. Verse 30. And when, read with me, when 40 years have passed, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire in the bush in the wilderness of Mount Sinai. So during this 40 years, can you imagine 40 years? Moses was in the wilderness. There is nothing much going on in his life. He escaped from Egypt, and now he ended up in the wilderness. He was sitting in the palace, now was sitting and sleeping along with the sheep. Probably once in a week he may go home, because he had a wife and 2 sons. The scripture that comes into my mind, I'm not sure it's relevant. I don't think it's relevant, but it talks about the day of the Lord. You know, that's what eventually is going to happen. But it is, I believe it's relevant at this context. Can you come with me to Amos chapter 5? Do we have that there? Amos chapter 5, verse 19. Can you read with me? It's an amazing scripture. It will be as though a man fled from a lion and a bear met him. Or as though he went into the house, leaned his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him. Moses was in Egypt. He thought he is escaping from a lion, and now what came? A bear came. He's in the wilderness now. He thought he's getting safety into the house and leaned on the wall, put his hand on the wall, and what bit him? A serpent, a snake bit him. Moses was in the same situation. Moses became a shepherd in Midian, working for whom? His father-in-law. Probably that's the last thing I want to do in my life. Working for my... Who want to do that? Anybody want to do that? You want to work for your father-in-law? Maybe. Maybe he's a great businessman. I don't do that. I can't do that. Can you do that? Working for your father-in-law? Maybe. You are very clever, you know, because your husband is next to you, right? You cannot say, no, I won't work. Maybe if he has a big company. So here, Jethro, his father-in-law, has a big company. What is that company? Sheep breeding. Business. Good business. Sheep is, by the way, very expensive, right? You know, goat meat is very expensive. Very good business. So Moses became a shepherd in Midian, working with Jethro. also known as Reuel. He's a priest in Midian. And Moses married Jethro's daughter. No reason, no wonder why he was working for his father-in-law, right? It's a benefit there. And he got two sons, Gershom and Eleazar, right? Sounds right? Okay, sounds right. Thank you. So during these years, Moses lived a very quiet life. He was humbling himself as a shepherd boy, tending his father-in-law's flocks. It was a terrible time in his life. And he learned to navigate in the wilderness, how he can take care of his sheep, because that was his full-time job now. And that is becoming a training ground. We are talking about Moses' second 40 years, a season of training in Midian. Moses' time of being trained as a shepherd has started in the wilderness. And Moses is learning humility, how to run behind the sheep, and how to collect the sheep droppings, and all these things he's doing there. Now this is a time of solitude. And this is a time God is preparing Moses, because God only knew that he is going to be the leader of Israel. And where he had to be brought down, he had to be brought down to the ground, to the floor. So leaders doesn't get dropped from heaven, they rise from the earth. Leaders rise from the earth. If you want to become a leader, where we should be? We should be on the ground. On the ground. That's what Moses is doing. Moses is right there. And God is about to raise him as a great leader. Can you come with me to Exodus chapter 3, verse 1? Now Moses was, read with me, Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. That's what is his job. That's what he's doing. So if God had a purpose behind Moses shepherding sheep for 40 years, I believe he certainly has a purpose over our life too. Moses' life did not end in the wilderness. It continued, and I know that. And if God had a plan for keeping Moses for the 40 long years in the wilderness, God had a plan for me too. For some reason, God did not officially call him to be a leader at the age of 40. Not even at 50, not even at 60, not even at 70, but at the age of 80, God had to wait to call him as a leader of the nation. During these 40 years, Moses was shepherding. So he was separated out from the rest of the people. Can you imagine Moses' condition? Moses almost lost all the skills that he learned in the palace, in the Egyptian palace. Have you come across that situation in your life? Your life was totally different, but now God is taking you to different phases, different seasons of life. At times you feel that you just lost all those skills that you gained. His only companions were the sheep. Sheep were the only companion. Somebody used to say that even Moses lost his speech. How much you can speak to the sheep? Have you ever tried speaking to a sheep? What does it say? Man. That's the only language it knows. And finally, you also end up in speaking the sheep language. So Moses, for 40 years, he just lost everything. But not sure how much he realized that God is watching over you. We were not talking about David. He was a man of God's own heart. Even in the wilderness, what he was doing? He was taking his guitar and then singing psalms. This poor Moses doesn't go to guitar lessons, doesn't go to any music lesson, and doesn't learn any music. And he can't even sing. When you're put in the wilderness, only one thing that helps you, what is that? Your instrument. Your instrument. Moses didn't learn. Many times Moses would have thought, what was the purpose of my life, God? What is the purpose? Why was he not killed? God killed along with other male children, other male Hebrew children. Why, God, you didn't kill me? Why did I find favor in the sight of Pharaoh's daughter? What was the purpose of placing me in Pharaoh's palace, oh God? Why didn't you even kill me in the wilderness? when I was all alone. I don't know how long, how many years I'm going to be here in the wilderness, God. Why, God, you have abandoned me. God, even you have forgotten me. God, even you don't care about me. Probably, if you think back, I have a vague memory that I wanted to release my people from the Egyptian slavery. Probably God has chosen somebody else. There is absolutely no communication. There is no contact. Moses didn't even know what his people are going through. There is no communication method that was available. He was not sure about the whereabouts of his own people, those who are living under bondage in Egypt. Moses was desperate. He was frustrated, and he would have gone through a time, and he would have cried to God many times, enough is enough. Enough is enough. He reached a point of time. By now, God, enough is enough. Can I move to another season? Can I look forward to something else, God? Or do you want me to perish, die in this wilderness? If at all there is a way out from the wilderness, God, can I look forward to that? Moses desperately wanted to move to the next season of his life. He had known his God. He's known his God. He knew his God, who his God was. He had such a stamina and faith, still holding on, still looking for the next move. What about you today? What about me today? Are you looking for your next move? Are you excited? Are you expectantly waiting God for take you to your next season? This morning I'm talking to you. Moses desperately wanted to move into his next season. Do not settle down. I'm not saying that you need to move out of Halifax. Don't move. I'm talking about doing something different than what you have been doing. Are you not fed up with what you have been doing? Are you not feeling like giving up what you have been doing? Can you do something else? Last couple of weeks before I was talking about, you have a book inside. By the time when the book is going to be published, give me a date now. When your book is going to be published, give me a date now. 5 months? 5 weeks? 5 days? 5 years? You can hire a writer. Can I work for you? He said, no, Pastor. Just be there. That is safe. You got it. 5 years. Couple of weeks before I was talking about, you have a book inside. You have a business inside. So Moses was not willing to settle down in the wilderness. Listen to me carefully. Thirdly, Moses is moving on to the next season of his life. It's very interesting. The season of leadership in the wilderness. The final 40 years. Can you say final 40 years? At the age of 80, Moses was called by God through the burning bush to lead children of Israel out of the bondage into the promised land. The final season of Moses' life was marked with leadership, faith, perseverance, and a lot of guidance he need. And even he has to guide people of God, and he has to even intercede for the people of God to take children of God into the blessed land. Moses got skilled up in the Egyptian culture. Moses skills got added up in his life in the wilderness. And now God is about to use him. God is so funny. He's been waiting for Moses to acquire all the skills over a period of time. And he's coming to Moses right now in Exodus chapter 3, verses 2-4. Can you read with me? And the angel of the Lord, read with me. Angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. And so he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. Then Moses said, and this is what he said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn. Read with me. So when the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called him from the midst of the bush and said, what? Moses, Moses. And he said, what? 40 years, 80 years, God has not forgotten his name. 40 years, 80 years, Moses has not forgotten that it is God's voice. The one who has called you is what? Faithful. Can you say faithful? The one who has called you is faithful. He will never forget you, and he will never allow you to forget him. He's always with you. He's always behind you. Exodus 3:10, can you read with me? Come now, therefore, I will send you to Pharaoh that you may bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Moses thought everything is over. Moses thought enough is enough. Now Moses is not at all in a position to accept responsibility. Think about something. I hire you, and I say that 1 month, 2 months I try with you, and then I say that you're not good. I fire you. And then you go and work for somebody else and somewhere else. After some time again calling you, 2 months back, two years later, I'm calling you. Can you come and work for me? What do they say? What do you say? What do you say? No. No. That's all you say? You say more than no, right? You say that, just find your way, find somebody else, I'm not there. I'm not available for you now. Right? So that's a posture of Moses now standing before God. I want to send you to Israel, to Egypt, to release my people from Egypt, from the slavery. And Moses is saying, find somebody else. I'm not there for you. Find somebody else. I agree with Moses. If I'm there in Moses' place, I would have said the same thing. Maybe I would have said more. And I don't understand why God had to take Moses to the extremes of life when he was saying enough is enough. And he thought of quitting at the age of 80. 80 is a good age to retire, right? What do you say? 80 is a good age to retire. So Moses was about to retire, and now God is calling him. Now when God asked him to go to Pharaoh, Moses is not at all willing to take any responsibility. No, I am not there. Find somebody else. It was very difficult for Moses even transitioning from the season of training in Midian, in the Midian wilderness, and now he can't even think about a season of leadership in the wilderness. He lost everything, all the skills. He would have told that, God, if you would have called me 40 years before, I would have come. And if you would have come, what he would have done? He would have killed everybody, including children of God. That was the Moses before 40 years. And God had to wait for his testosterone to come down. Calm down. Bring down. Relax so that I can use you. God had to wait until that point of time. When we think about enough is enough, God, I'm willing to quit. God's purpose is coming alive at that moment. I don't understand this, God. I don't know about you. And God is saying that, God, Moses, I'm not done with you yet. God, what are you going to do with me, this 80 years old man? What are you planning to do with me? Now Moses realizes that he cannot resist the plan of God. After all, he's God. He doesn't want to run away from his plan. And he stopped resisting and giving himself to the purpose of God. I know each one of us is different. We have different seasons in our lives. We are all going through different seasons of our lives. There are times even we say that enough is enough, God. Enough is enough. I'm done with you, God. I'm ready to quit. That's the time God brings people alongside of you. That's the time God opens a new door which was shut all along in your life. And that's the time when you are called by the same employer. At times, that's the time you are offered a promotion. That's the time when you are about to quit. That's the time your test report comes totally negative. You're disease-free now. You're healed totally. That's how God works. When you say enough is enough, God, I'm done with everything, that's the time God brings something alive in your life. Have you experienced any time the God that I'm talking about, Moses thought enough is enough at the age of 80. He never wanted to go back to the stage again. Can you put the next slide? Wow. What a life of a leader is this. If you can read, I can just read. This is what I put together. He was about to be killed as a child. Read that with me. About to be killed by Pharaoh. He was thrown in the wilderness of Midian, wasted his prime years of his life going behind the sheep, now called at the age of 80 to do something that he felt he's totally unfit. That's what he thought. He's sent to the same place from where he escaped 40 years before. He didn't like that at all. At this old age, he was asked to lead such a rebellious, such a stiff-necked people for another 40 years. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? I'm sure at the age of 120, Moses was thoroughly used up, and Moses was thoroughly sucked out of his body at the age of 120. That's the God we serve. He doesn't leave you just like that. He doesn't leave you in the way you wanted to go. He doesn't leave you the way you wanted to plan your life. He's a God. His hand is so heavy upon your life. That's a struggle that you are going through. I want you to understand this morning, you are in the wilderness of Midian. Can you say, I'm in the wilderness of Midian? Out loud, can you say, I'm in the wilderness of Midian? There is a time that God is going to bring in your life, and that God is going to use you. And before you die, before I die, we are going to be thoroughly used up and sucked up. That's a God we serve. What do we learn from the life of Moses? Next slide. What do we learn? These are the 4 things that we learned from the life of Moses. Quickly. Number 1, God's timing is different from ours. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness. A long lesson he learned during the 40 years in the wilderness. He thought the life as a leader is over. Enough is enough. But God's timing is different from our timing. In God's timing, God calls people and gives them new roles and responsibilities. It happens in His timing. In His timing. Secondly, our limitations don't limit God's purpose. Our limitations don't limit God's purpose. Moses felt unqualified. Moses was voicing his inadequacies and his reluctance to become a leader again at this age. But that did not limit God's purpose. God looked at what is already invested in his life. God is looking at your life and God is saying, I have invested so much in your life. You are capable of more than what you do today. You are capable of handling more than what you handle today. And God is behind you. The reason God is behind you, listen to me, the reason God is after you, the reason God is asking you to follow Him carefully, there is something that God likes in you. There is something that God likes in you. People may not know, I may not know, nobody knows, but there is something that God likes in you. If you like something in somebody, you will even dare to give your life for that cause. God likes something in you. I want all of you to believe that God likes something in me. God likes something in me that He cannot find in somebody else. Maybe your faithfulness. God cannot find your faithfulness in somebody else's life. Maybe something that God likes in you. Number 3 lesson that we learn, what is that? A new season request, a new strength. God called him and gave him strength. How do you know? Can you come with me to Deuteronomy chapter 34, verse 7? Can you read the scripture? Beautiful scripture. Moses was what? 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dim, nor his natural vigor diminished. God remade Moses for the purpose. God remade Moses for the purpose with great strength, with great wisdom, and He provided all the resources, all the support that he was in need. That's the God we serve. You need to ask God to remake you. Sit in your prayer time, in your closet, and ask God to remake you. He will do it for you. Finally, our enough is not God's enough. Can you say that with me? Our enough is not God's enough. We may feel overwhelmed, and we may draw a line saying that enough is enough, Lord. I'm not there, but God is not. Our limit is not God's limit. Our enough is not God's enough. Maybe our enough moments are breakthroughs for God. Our enough moments are maybe turning points for God. And this morning I believe God is speaking to you. Enough is enough moments. Might be a breakthrough moments. Shall we all arise? Just want to summarize as we close. God wants you to transition into your new season. Even though you may pray that enough is enough, But God is not leaving you. He wants you to transition into the new season. God's timing is different from our timing. Our limitations don't limit the purpose of God, the plan of God. A new season requires new strength from you. And you should know, I should know that our enoughs are not God's enoughs. Can you close up?